My name is Emma Richardson. I'm 23 years old, and the day I realized my mother had been sabotaging my entire life, I was standing in a hospital corridor holding 2 cups of terrible vending machine coffee. One for me, one for her. She didn't even say thank you. She just looked at me with those cold blue eyes and said, "You know, if you'd actually made something of yourself, maybe we wouldn't be in this situation." I was there because she'd called me at 2 a.m. hysterical, saying she needed me, that my stepbrother Jason had been in an accident, that I was the only one who could help. I'd driven 3 hours through a storm to get there, and that's how she greeted me. Not with relief, not with gratitude, with blame. If you've ever had a parent who made you feel like you were never quite good enough no matter what you did, stick around till the end and hit subscribe. Because what I discovered that night, and what I did about it, changed everything. Let me back up, my childhood wasn't a horror story, it was subtler than that. It was 1,000 tiny cuts disguised as concern. My mom remarried when I was 8. Her new husband, Derek, came with a son, Jason, who was 6. From day one the dynamic was clear. Jason was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, the one whose feelings mattered, and me, I was the responsible one, the mature one, the one who didn't need as much attention because I was so independent. When I was 10, I wanted to take art classes. My mom said we couldn't afford it. 2 weeks later, Jason started piano lessons. He showed real interest, she explained. You understand, right, Emma? You're always so good about these things. When I was 13, I made the honor roll. My mom said, "That's nice, sweetie," and put the certificate on the fridge. When Jason passed his math test with a C+, they took him out for ice cream and posted about it on Facebook. So proud of our boy for working so hard. I learned early that my achievements were expected. His were celebrated, but the real kicker, the thing that makes my blood boil even now, she convinced me it was my fault, that I wasn't trying hard enough to connect with her, that I was too independent, too closed off, too unwilling to ask for help. So I tried harder. I joined clubs she mentioned liking. I asked her opinion on everything. I became the perfect daughter, hoping that eventually she'd look at me the way she looked at him. Spoiler alert, she never did. By the time I was 16, I'd stopped hoping for equal treatment. I just focused on getting out. I worked part-time at a diner, saved every penny, and applied to colleges far away. When I got accepted to a school in another state with a partial scholarship, I was ecstatic. My mom's response, "That's great, honey, but you know we can't help you financially. Derek and I are already stretched thin with Jason's expenses." Jason's expenses included a new laptop, a school trip to Europe, and hockey equipment he used exactly twice. I worked 2 jobs through college. I lived in the cheapest apartment I could find. I ate ramen and peanut butter sandwiches for months at a time. And every time I called home, my mom would say, "You sound stressed. Maybe you took on too much. Jason's doing so well at community college. He's really finding himself." Finding himself. He was 19, living at home rent-free, working maybe 10 hours a week at a movie theater and spending his paycheck on video games. But sure. He was finding himself. I graduated with honors. My mom didn't come to the ceremony. Derek's back was acting up, she said, and Jason had a thing, you understand. I stopped expecting her to show up after that. I got a job at a marketing firm. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable. I rented a small studio apartment, finally had a couch that wasn't from a curb, and started building a life that was mine. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. Then my mom started calling more often. At first it was casual, just checking in. "How's work? Have you met anyone?" But then the requests started, small at first. "Emma, could you lend me $200 just till next month?" Then, "Derek's truck needs repairs, could you help us out?" Then, "Jason's tuition is due and we're a little short, you're doing so well, we knew you'd understand." Every time I said yes, because some pathetic part of me still thought that if I helped enough she'd finally see me. She'd finally say, "Emma, you're amazing, thank you, I don't know what we'd do without you." She never did, she just asked for more. The breaking point came on a random Tuesday. I was at work in the middle of a campaign pitch when my phone started buzzing. 3 calls from my mom in 10 minutes. I excused myself and called her back. "Emma, thank God," she said, voice shaking. "It's Jason, he's in the hospital, there was an accident, you need to come." My heart stopped. "Is he okay? What happened?" "Just come," she said, "please, we need you." I left work immediately, told my boss it was a family emergency, drove 3 hours in a rainstorm, hands shaking on the wheel, imagining the worst. When I got to the hospital, my mom was in the waiting room. She looked exhausted, mascara smudged, hands wringing a tissue. "Where is he?" I asked, breathless. "Is he in surgery? What happened?" She blinked at me. "He's in X-ray, they think he broke his wrist." I stared at her. "His wrist? Yes, she snapped. He fell off his skateboard. They're checking for fractures. I'd driven 3 hours through a storm because he fell off a skateboard. Why didn't you just tell me that on the phone? I asked slowly. Because you wouldn't have come, she said matter-of-factly. You've been so distant lately. We needed you here. That's when I went to get the coffee. That's when she hit me with the line about me not making something of myself. And that's when something inside me finally, irreversibly broke. I handed her the coffee. She took it without looking at me. Jason's going to need help while he recovers, she continued. Derek and I both work full-time. We were thinking you could take some time off and stay with us for a few weeks. I laughed, actually laughed, it came out harsh and bitter. You want me to take time off work to take care of your 21-year-old son because he broke his wrist skateboarding? Don't be dramatic, she said. He's your brother. Family helps family. There it was, that phrase, the one she'd used 100 times to justify why I should give and give and give while Jason took and took and took. No, I said. She looked up startled. What? No, I repeated. I'm not taking time off work. I'm not staying here. I'm not doing this anymore. Emma, she said, standing. Don't be selfish. He needs help. Then you help him, I shot back. Or better yet, let him figure it out himself. He's 21. I was working 2 jobs at 21. Her face hardened. You've always been jealous of him, she hissed. Ever since we became a family, you've resented him because he's happy and you're miserable. That hit like a slap. I'm miserable, I said, voice shaking. I worked myself to the bone to get where I am. I put myself through college. I've been bailing you out financially for 2 years. And you think I'm jealous of Jason, who's never had to struggle for anything because you handed him everything on a silver platter. We gave you opportunities too, she snapped. We raised you, fed you, kept a roof over your head. You did the bare minimum required by law, I said, and you've been holding it over my head ever since. She opened her mouth to argue, but I kept going. Every time I achieved something, you barely noticed. Every time Jason scraped by, you threw him a parade. I have begged for your approval my entire life, and you made me feel like I wasn't worth it. So no, Mom, I'm not staying. I'm done. I turned to leave. She grabbed my arm. If you walk out that door right now, she said quietly, don't expect us to be here when you need something. I looked at her hand on my arm, then at her face. You were never here when I needed something, I said. I learned to stop asking a long time ago, and I walked out. I cried the entire drive home, not because I regretted what I said, but because I'd finally said it, because I'd finally stopped playing the role she'd written for me, the role of the daughter who didn't matter as much. When I got home, I blocked her number. I blocked Derek's. I even blocked Jason's, though he'd never texted me anyway unless he wanted something. For a week I felt numb, then I felt relieved, then I felt angry, really, truly angry, at her, at Derek, at Jason, but mostly at myself for letting it go on so long. Then one night, scrolling mindlessly through old emails, I found something, an email from my mom from 3 years ago. Subject line, your father's estate. I'd never opened it. My dad died when I was 6, I barely remembered him. My mom remarried so fast, I'd just assumed there was nothing left of him in our lives. I opened the email. Emma, I wanted to let you know that your father's life insurance finally came through. It was meant for your education, but given everything with the new family, Derek and I decided it was best to put it toward the house and Jason's future. You understand, you're so independent, you didn't need it like he does. I read it 3 times. My father's life insurance, meant for my education, they'd used it for Jason, and they never told me. I checked the date. It had come through the year before I started college. The year I'd worked myself into exhaustion to scrape together tuition. The year I'd lived off ramen and hope. They'd had money that was meant for me, and they'd given it to him. My hands shook as I opened my laptop and started searching. Life insurance policies, estate records, I didn't even know what I was looking for, but I knew there had to be more. 3 hours later I found it, my father had left me a trust fund. Not huge, but enough to have covered my entire college education and then some. The trustee, my mother. It was supposed to be released to me when I turned 18. I was 23 now. I pulled up my bank records. Nothing, no deposits, no transfers, nothing. She'd never given it to me. I sat there staring at the screen, feeling like the ground had opened up beneath me. Everything made sense now. Why she'd pushed me to be independent. Why she'd always said they couldn't afford to help. Why she'd made me feel guilty for even asking. She'd had my money the whole time. And she'd spent it on Jason. If you've ever discovered that someone you trusted betrayed you in the worst possible way, you know that feeling. That cold, sick, furious feeling. Stick with me. Because what I did next, they never saw coming. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, documents scattered everywhere, coffee going cold in front of me. I wasn't just angry anymore, I was methodical, calculated. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to please anyone, I was trying to get what was mine. The trust fund paperwork was clear. My father had set it up specifically for my education and future. The amount, $127,000. It was supposed to be released to me at 18 or earlier with trustee approval for education expenses. My mother was listed as the sole trustee until I turned 25, at which point control would automatically transfer to me. But here's the thing about trust funds. The trustee has to provide annual statements to the beneficiary. I'd never received a single one, not at 18, not at 21, not ever. I started making a list, everything I could remember them asking me for. Every loan I'd given that was never paid back. Every time my mom had said, "We're stretched thin," while Jason got new gaming equipment or concert tickets or whatever else he wanted. The total came to just over $8,000, money I'd given them while they sat on my inheritance. At 3 a.m. I opened a new email. Subject line, Trust Fund Inquiry. I addressed it to the bank listed on the documents. To whom it may concern, I am writing to inquire about a trust fund established by my late father, Richard Richardson, in 2003. I am the beneficiary and have never received statements or distributions. Please contact me immediately regarding the status of this account. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Then I did something else. I opened a new document and started writing down everything. Every moment of favoritism, every dollar I'd given them, every time she'd made me feel small while building Jason up. If this was going to court, I needed evidence, and if it wasn't going to court, I needed to at least see it all written down, to prove to myself I wasn't crazy, that this wasn't normal. The bank responded within 2 business days. They wanted to schedule a call. My hands were shaking when I dialed the number. Ms. Richardson, a woman's voice professional and kind. This is Margaret Chen from the Trust Department. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for getting back to me, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I just found out about this trust fund and I've never received any information about it. There was a pause. I see, she said carefully. Ms. Richardson, I'm looking at the account now. There have been regular distributions made over the past 5 years. My heart stopped. Distributions to who? According to our records to the trustee, your mother. She submitted requests for educational expenses on your behalf. What kind of expenses? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She listed them: tuition payments to the community college Jason attended, a laptop purchase, textbooks, dorm fees for a school I'd never attended. That wasn't me, I said. I went to state university, I paid my own tuition, I worked 2 jobs, none of those expenses were mine. Silence on the other end. Then, carefully, Ms. Richardson, are you saying these distributions were made fraudulently? Yes, I said. I'm saying exactly that. What followed was a blur of legal terminology and procedures: fraud investigation, breach of fiduciary duty, possible criminal charges. They needed documentation from me, proof of where I'd actually gone to school, bank statements showing I'd paid my own way. They'd freeze the account immediately. Any remaining funds would be held pending investigation. When I hung up, I sat in silence for a long moment. Then I opened my laptop and did something I probably shouldn't have. I logged into my mom's Facebook. I still had her password from years ago when I'd helped her set up her account. She'd never changed it. I scrolled through her posts, photo after photo of Jason. My boy's first day at college, with a picture of him in front of the community college she'd paid for with my money. So proud of this young man. With him holding the laptop, I'd unknowingly HT couldn't ask for a better son, posted the same week I'd graduated college, the week she didn't come to my ceremony. But it was the posts about me that made my blood boil. There were exactly 4 in the past 5 years, a shared article about adulting with the caption, "So proud of Emma for being so independent," a birthday post, "Happy birthday to my eldest, you've always been so strong and self-sufficient," and 2 others both similarly distant and performative. I wasn't her daughter in those posts. I was a character she played for her audience, the successful, independent one who didn't need her. It made it easier to justify spending my inheritance on her real child. I logged out before I did something stupid like commenting on every post with the truth, but I took screenshots of everything. The next week crawled by. I went to work, I smiled at colleagues, I sat through meetings, but inside I was somewhere else entirely. I was in that hospital corridor again. I was 10 years old watching Jason get piano lessons. I was 16 working doubles at the diner. I was 21, sobbing over a tuition bill. Then the bank called again. Ms. Richardson, we've completed our preliminary investigation. Of the original $127,000, approximately $89,000 has been distributed. Based on the documentation you provided and our records, none of these distributions were legitimate educational expenses for you. My mouth went dry. What happens now? We're required to report this to the authorities, she said. This constitutes fraud and breach of fiduciary duty. The remaining funds, roughly $38,000, will be released to you. As for the distributed amount, you have the right to pursue civil action to recover those funds. Civil action, a lawsuit against my own mother. What are the chances I'd win? I asked. Given the evidence, very high, she said. The trust documents are explicit. The distributions were clearly fraudulent. If you choose to pursue this, I'd recommend speaking with an attorney who specializes in trust litigation. I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat there staring at nothing, trying to process what this meant. I could sue her, I could take her to court, I could force her to pay back every penny she'd stolen from me. The thought sent a thrill through me that I wasn't entirely proud of, but right behind it came something else. Doubt. She was still my mother, flawed and selfish and cruel, but still my mother. Could I really do this? Then I thought about that email. You didn't need it like he does. I thought about the coffee in the hospital. If you'd actually made something of yourself. I thought about every time she'd made me feel like I was asking for too much, when all I wanted was to be seen. Yes, I realized I could absolutely do this. I found a lawyer through a referral from a colleague. Her name was Patricia Morner, and she had a reputation for being ruthless. When I walked into her office and told her my story, she didn't look shocked. She looked angry. How old were you when your father died? She asked. 6, I said. She wrote something down. And your mother remarried when? 2 years later, I was 8. More notes. This is textbook financial abuse, she said bluntly. She isolated you emotionally, made you feel like you weren't entitled to help, all while stealing money that was legally yours. We can absolutely pursue this. What would it look like? I asked. She leaned back in her chair. We file a lawsuit for breach of fiduciary duty and fraud. We demand repayment of the $89,000 plus interest and legal fees. Given the evidence, they'll likely try to settle. If not, we go to trial. And Ms. Richardson, I'll be honest with you, you will win. What about criminal charges? I asked. The bank said they're reporting it to authorities. That's separate, she said. The DA's office will decide whether to prosecute, but even if they don't, you can still recover your money through civil court. I signed the retainer agreement that day. When I left her office, I felt like I was floating, or drowning, I couldn't tell which. That night I drafted an email. I must have written and deleted it 20 times. Finally, I settled on this. Mom, I recently discovered the trust fund Dad left for me. I also discovered that you've been taking distributions from it for the past 5 years, none of which were used for my education or benefit. I've hired an attorney. You'll be served with a lawsuit within the next few days. I think you know why I'm doing this. Emma. I stared at it for an hour before hitting send. The response came within minutes. Emma, I don't know what you think you know, but you're making a huge mistake. We can talk about this like adults. Don't do something you'll regret. Call me. I deleted it without responding. The next message came an hour later. Emma, please, you're going to ruin this family over money. Is that really who you are? Then another. Derek and I did everything we could for you. You were always so difficult, so cold. We tried our best. And another. Jason is devastated. He looks up to you. How can you do this to him? I turned my phone off and went to bed. When I woke up, there were 17 missed calls and a dozen texts. I blocked the number. They tried Derek's phone. Blocked. Jason's phone. Blocked. Then they tried email. I set up a filter to send anything from them straight to a folder I never looked at. My lawyer said not to engage, so I didn't. The lawsuit was filed on a Tuesday. They were served that Friday. I know because Patricia called me. They've been served, she said. Expect escalation. She was right. That weekend my phone started ringing from numbers I didn't recognize. I stopped answering. Then the Facebook messages started, distant relatives I barely knew. Emma, your mother is beside herself. What's going on? Family shouldn't sue family. Can't you work this out? Your poor mother is so heartbroken. She doesn't deserve this. I didn't respond to any of them, but I did check my mom's Facebook one last time. She'd posted a long, rambling status. Sometimes the people you sacrifice everything for turn on you. I raised my daughter the best I could, and now she's trying to destroy our family over money. I don't even recognize her anymore. Please pray for us during this difficult time. The comments were full of support for her. You're such a strong woman. Some people are just greedy. She doesn't know how good she had it. I felt sick reading it, but I also felt something else, free because I knew the truth, and soon so would everyone else. The next move came from their lawyer, a settlement offer. They'd pay back $30,000 over 5 years if I dropped the suit and signed an NDA. I laughed when Patricia told me. Counter offer, I said. Full amount, $89,000 plus interest and my legal fees, paid within 90 days, no NDA, and a written apology acknowledging what she did. They'll never go for the apology, Patricia warned. Then we go to trial, I said. They rejected the counter offer. We went to trial, or rather we were scheduled to, because 2 weeks before the court date they caved. Their lawyer called Patricia. They'd agree to everything except the written apology. Tell them the apology is non-negotiable, I said. Patricia raised an eyebrow. You're willing to risk this over an apology? It's not about the apology, I said. It's about her admitting what she did, in writing, where she can't deny it or twist it or make me the villain. There was a long pause, then Patricia smiled. I'll tell them. It took another week of negotiation, but finally they agreed. $89,000 plus $12,000 in interest and legal fees. Total, $101,000, to be paid within 60 days. And a written, signed letter from my mother acknowledging that she had misused the trust fund and that I had every right to pursue legal action. The day the letter arrived, I sat in my apartment holding the envelope. My hands were shaking. Inside was a single page, typed formal, probably written by their lawyer, but at the bottom her signature. I, her full name, acknowledged that I inappropriately used distributions from the trust fund established for Emma Richardson by her late father. These funds were meant for her education and benefit, and I failed in my duty as trustee. Emma had every right to pursue legal remedy for my actions. It wasn't an apology, it was barely an acknowledgement, but it was the truth in writing with her name on it. I folded it carefully and put it in a safe deposit box at my bank. The money came through a week later, one lump sum deposited into my account. I stared at the number on my phone. $101,000, more money than I'd ever had at once. Money that should have been mine years ago, money that would have changed everything. I thought about what I could have done with it, how I wouldn't have had to work 2 jobs, how I could have studied instead of scrambling for shifts, how I wouldn't have lived off ramen and stress for 4 years, but I also thought about who I'd become because of all that. Strong, independent, unbreakable, the kind of person who could walk into a lawyer's office and demand justice, the kind of person who couldn't be guilted into backing down. Would I trade who I am now for an easier past? I don't know, but I do know this. They tried to make me feel like I was selfish for wanting what was mine, like I was cruel for holding them accountable, like I was destroying the family by refusing to be destroyed myself. And you know what? I didn't care anymore, because the most powerful revenge isn't making them suffer, it's refusing to suffer for them. I never spoke to my mother again, not at the settlement signing, which was handled entirely through lawyers, not when she tried to reach me through relatives, not when Jason sent me a long, rambling email about how I'd ruined his life by taking away money that was never his to begin with. I Chang. Ed my number, I moved to a new apartment. I started therapy to unpack 23 years of being the daughter who didn't matter. And slowly, carefully, I built a life that was entirely mine. No guilt, no obligation, no more hoping that if I just gave a little more, sacrificed a little more, I'd finally be enough. I was already enough. I always had been. They just couldn't see it because they were too busy protecting their golden child from the consequences of his own mediocrity. 6 months after the settlement, I got a message request on Instagram from Jason. I almost deleted it, but curiosity got the better of me. Emma, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need you to know something. They lied to me too. Mom told me that money was from Dad's insurance and it was for the family. I didn't know it was yours. I didn't know you were working 2 jobs while I was living off your inheritance. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry, and that I moved out. I'm working full-time now. Paying my own way, it sucks, but I get it now. I get why you were so angry. Anyway, I hope you're doing okay. I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, to tell him it wasn't his fault, that he was a kid and kids don't know better, but another part of me remembered every time he'd gotten something I'd been denied, every time his needs had come before mine, and I realized something. It didn't matter if he knew or if he didn't. It didn't matter if he was sorry. What mattered was that I'd stopped letting their dysfunction define my worth. I never responded, but I didn't block him either. Maybe someday I'd be ready for that conversation, or maybe I wouldn't. Either way, it would be my choice, my terms, my life. So here's what I learned. Family will tell you that blood is thicker than water, that you owe them loyalty just because you share DNA. But loyalty is a two-way street, and the people who demand it the most are usually the ones who have given it the least. When my mother finally needed my help, when the golden child couldn't save them, when they realized I was the one with the stable job and the good credit and the resources they'd always pretended I didn't need, I said no. Not because I wanted them to suffer, but because I'd already suffered enough for all of us. And you know what the wildest part is? After everything, after the lawsuit and the settlement and the silence, my mom posted on Facebook one more time about me. Proud of my daughter Emma for standing up for herself. She's always been so strong and independent. I don't know where she gets it from. The comments were full of people praising her for raising such a resilient daughter. No one knew the truth. No one knew what it had cost me to become that strong. And I realized that's the final twist. She'll never admit what she did, not publicly, not really. She'll spin it, rewrite history, make herself the hero of a story where she was the villain. But I have that letter, I have the truth, and I don't need her to acknowledge it to anyone but me. If you've ever been the backup child, the one who was expected to be strong while someone else got to be fragile, the one who worked for scraps while someone else was handed everything, I want you to know something. You deserved better. You still deserve better. And walking away from people who make you feel small isn't cruelty, it's survival. So yeah, my mom made me work 2 jobs while my stepbrother lived at home rent-free. She spent my inheritance on him and made me feel guilty for needing help. And when I finally stood up for myself, she tried to make me the villain. But here's the thing about villains. We're just people who got tired of being heroes in someone else's story. And honestly, I've never felt more free. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to choose between being loved and being free, drop a comment. Tell me what you would have done. And don't forget to subscribe, because sometimes the best revenge isn't making them pay. It's refusing to pay for their mistakes anymore.